before we begin, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and electronic devices. However, we do encourage you to tweet after our speaker's remarks if you're so inclined, and like us on Facebook. I think we're up to over 1,000 Facebook friends, Haley?
Yep.
Before we begin, we have a couple of upcoming events we'd like to tell you about. First of all, we regret that Jason Rezaian and Yevgeny Salehi will not be joining us on October 2nd for a discussion on Iran as was originally planned, as they've been detained. But we have decided to refocus the event as one at which we will examine the risks of foreign correspondence. And with us for that event is Rob Mahoney on the Committee to Protect Journalists, Gabe Escobar, Managing Editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and Doug Gell, the Foreign Editor of the Washington Post, and that is being partnered with the Philadelphia Inquirer and will be hosted at their venue. So if there are very few seats left, if you're interested in joining us for that, please register early. That is October 2nd. We're also delighted to announce that another of our great debates will take place on Wednesday, October 29th, and that's titled "The End of Greatness: Will America Have or Do We Need Another Great President?" This discussion, featuring David Eisenhower and Aaron David Miller, will be held in Congress Hall in the Independence National Historical Park adjacent to Independence Hall. And again, space is extremely limited, and we encourage you to reserve early if you're interested in joining us. Let's welcome our Bodine students. Of course, Bodine is one of the 80 schools with 2,000 students benefiting from our education program each year, and we're very happy to have you with us today. Travel is also a significant element in the Council's mission, with trips to Cuba, Iran, Myanmar, and other exciting destinations around the world. And if you are a traveler, please pick up our 2015 brochure over at the table on your way out. So now let's turn the program over to Pakistan. Dr. Raza Bokhari is a physician turned entrepreneur and recipient of the Philadelphia Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Award. Over the past several years, he has developed outstanding expertise in aggregating and accelerating life sciences and healthcare services companies. He has a vast knowledge base of developing creative concepts, implementing programs, and forming strategic alliances. An effective change agent with several years of experience and expertise in startup and turnaround businesses, he has a special knack of adeptly turning around financially struggling companies. Raza currently serves as the managing partner of RBX Capital, a private equity fund in formation that is focused on investing in all segments of the U.S. laboratory testing market. Raza also volunteers his time as President Musharraf's North American point of contact. He was elected as the national president of the Pakistani American Public Affairs Committee for the years 2006 and 2007. He currently serves on the board of Temple University's Fox School of Business and Management as chairman of the Executive Advisory Committee, and he is also vice chairman of the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. Raza has held a ringside seat witnessing numerous changes in Pakistan in recent years. Today, he joins us to offer his insider's analysis of the complexities of this South Asian nation and his ideas for how Pakistan may achieve self-reliance and stability in an unpredictable and often dangerous part of the world. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Raza Bokhari.
Thank you and good morning, Denise. This is a very generous and a magnanimous introduction. Even I'm impressed to hear all that you had to say. Maybe I think that includes some great staff work by Shala that is from here from my office that probably give all this information. But thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to come back to the council, either as a member or as an officer or board member or as a speaker. I have done this program in Pakistan, I think 2 or 3 times before. Once I think I did this with Ed Kaczynski who is also a fellow board member of the Foreign Policy Research Institute. Is better, sir?
The microphone is not picking you up.
Take it off. Well, this is even. So this morning, and I was reading through the topic that that the council has put together, Pakistan's fractured reality. That was very intrigued by the title, because every nation, every region, they have harsh realities. We in United States constantly face harsh realities. This morning, I am sure that everybody is mindful. We are leading an airstrike in Syria and Iraq against a vicious force that has gathered, and hopefully we will destroy them. But the harsh political reality of the United States is that the president has said there would not be any combat troops on the ground, because that is a harsh political reality. Rather than saying that all options will be open and we will use all options that should remain available, we make political statements. In the same sense, healthcare of the United States is I am a healthcare life sciences investor / eccentric entrepreneur. So it is. I think it is not a overstatement when we all say that healthcare is broken, but it is a political harsh reality that we have. One side believes that by passing the Affordable Care Act, we have fixed the healthcare. And the other side believes by just outrightly repealing it, that will fix the healthcare. But these are harsh political realities. I'm not sure whether this could be made synonymous with fractured reality. So I thought I will take this is a small, intimate group, and as I begin to talk more and more about Pakistan, which is an important geopolitical country in South Asia. It has a population of 180 million. It is the second largest Muslim nation, organized as a nation about 65 or 66 years ago in 1947, so my math is a little poor, 68 years ago, that it came into existence. It is a nuclear flashpoint, so one of its biggest significance is that it is a nuclear-armed country, the only country predominantly dominated by the Muslim faith that has a nuclear weapon, so it is extremely significant. It also is the home of Al-Qaeda Central. Today, imminent threat to United States and the Western world is from ISIS or ISIL, depending who you want to listen to. But I think that vicious terrorist group likes to call itself IS, Islamic State. So they think they have a broad global mandate. But Al-Qaeda Central is home of that, is the region of Afghanistan and Pakistan is there. Pakistan is also significant. We have our largest contingent of combat troops still in Afghanistan that are finding their way back home towards the end of this year, and their return largely have to happen through Pakistan, especially all the military hardware that we have deployed there over last 12 or 13 years post September 11th, because Afghanistan is a landlocked country, and its only access or the most convenient economical and easiest access to Afghanistan is through Pakistan, because Pakistan on its east is neighbored by India, on its west by Afghanistan, north, east or west is China, and then there is the Arabian Sea in the south, and Iran is also in the southwest. So Pakistan has a lot of geopolitical significance, and post September 11th, Pakistan became a frontline state as an ally of United States in this coalition of the willing that had engaged in fighting extremism and terrorism. Pakistan itself has a checkered history. It is quite, in its 68 years, it has been directly governed by the military. It has a powerful military, and why it shouldn't, because it has a military that has nuclear weapons, a military that is enshrined in about 500 years of British military traditions. It draws its culture and traditions from since Pakistan is a former colony of the British rule as part of the Commonwealth. So the military is, like in all third world countries, especially in Pakistan, is quite strong, quite organized, and quite disciplined. It has directly governed Pakistan for 35 plus years, but indirectly it remains a significant player at all times, especially towards national security and foreign policy initiatives of Pakistan. The military really sets the tone with respect to its policies towards India, its relations with the United States, with respect to relations with China and the Middle East. So military is notwithstanding the morality of that, but it is a very important and a significant stakeholder in the process. And my good friend and in some ways benefactor, General Musharraf, the former president of Pakistan, will be very upset with me if I said this, which I every now and then say and get into trouble, that the Pakistan military has a political stake in Pakistan. It also is deeply entrenched in the economic outlook of Pakistan. Its pension fund probably owns 150 plus major corporations are deeply invested through the military welfare trust and pension programs. So Pakistan military is clearly not just a significant stakeholder nationally, but it is extremely important as the world engages with Pakistan that its military leadership is engaged equally, if not more intimately than the political leadership of the country. So anytime any world leaders, whether from the East, the Middle East, or the West, especially United States, they visit Pakistan, they make a stop in the capital, they meet the Prime Minister, who's the executive head of the country, they make some ceremonious call on the president of the country, but they make sure that they also go to the twin city of Islamabad, which is the capital, into Rawalpindi, where the military headquarters are, and also call on the chief of the army. And predominantly, unlike United States, Pakistan's military is predominantly infantry. It's the army. It's not the navy. So some compelling differences. But it is a country, as a part of its harsh reality, a country of compelling contrast. Like all third world countries, it's unfortunate that Pakistan has a very narrow band of middle class. Either It is a nation that has the handful elites. They have a small but very predominant people of resources, and then a majority of the masses which don't live in the rural parts of the country, but also are barely sustaining. But unlike India, at least nobody sleeps hungry in Pakistan. So that is their big pride, that at least we are better off. But except that India has about 1.4 billion people and has a lot of pockets of success, but somehow Pakistanis as a psyche, which I think is a bit of which I will agree is a fractured reality. As a nation, they're constantly competing and try to outshine India, which is the arch rival. It is the perception in Pakistan that India never really accepted the existence of Pakistan, and in some ways the Pakistani mindset resonates with the Israeli mindset, that they always continually live in an existential threat. So Pakistan's entire orientation is to react and respond to what the Indians are doing. So if India went nuclear, Pakistan had to go nuclear. India has a military force which is 5 or 6 times bigger than Pakistan, but 80% of that is oriented, or the forward forces are oriented towards Pakistan. They could at any time attack Pakistan. I don't think so they ever would, but that is certainly how they are oriented. So Pakistan has a lot of forward forces on its eastern border, and one of the major issues and challenges that Pakistan and the United States had faced in its relationship was that post September 11, United States wanted Pakistan to deploy more and more of its forces on its western border, which is neighboring Afghanistan, to curb these and combat these terrorists and offshoots and affiliates of Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda Central. But Pakistan, while it did deploy 140,000 of its troops there, and still currently have 140,000 of its troops on the western border against Afghanistan, which is quite a treacherous and a porous border. We think our border with Mexico is porous and unmanned and perhaps unchecked. The border between Afghanistan and Pakistan is not only porous, but in many ways Afghanistan does not recognize that border. That is the Durand line, and Afghanistan as a nation has never really recognized. They believe that the northwestern frontier province of Pakistan and Afghanistan are if not geographically together, they certainly are ethnically together. Afghanistan, as most of you may or may not know, are predominantly are Pakhtuns. 50+% of Afghanistan are Pakhtuns, and then there are smaller minorities, which is the Northern Alliance of Hazaras and Uzbeks and other ethnicities that are there, but Taliban, which is another militant vicious force, predominantly are Pakhtuns. And I think General Musharraf famously has said that all Taliban are Pakhtun, but all Pakhtuns are not Taliban, and that was his strategy to fight extremism and terrorism was by weaning off the Pakhtuns from the Taliban. But those were the challenges of U.S. and Pakistan relationship until recently, where United States always wanted Pakistan to do more on the western border, and on a little anecdote, every time a high-powered U.S. delegation that will go to Pakistan, represented by the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense or the Director of the CIA, there was always this big demand from Pakistan to do more, do more, do more. Notwithstanding the fact that post-September 11th, 700 plus senior Al-Qaeda operatives, including the mastermind of September 11th, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Faraj al-Libi, all of these major operatives of Al-Qaeda, they were all captured by Pakistani forces, and subsequently those were incarcerated, and most of them are still incarcerated in Gitmo. So in spite of the fact that Pakistan had these many contributions towards fighting this global menace of terrorism, there's always been this big demand of do more, do more, do more. So the last visit, I think the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, since she's a little bit back in the news, so I thought I should probably mention that, she was doing a town hall meeting in Pakistan, in Islamabad, and somebody stood up from the audience, a very enterprising young middle-aged woman. She said, well, United States is like a mother-in-law. Every time you come, you visit, and you always want to say, we put our best, foot forward, we are very hospitable, we welcome you, we roll the red carpet, and you look at everything, then you always ask, why don't you do some more? Why don't you do some more? So I think that had an impact. And I think subsequent to that trip, I think the do more ask became more and more private than public. But until recently, I think everyone is quite satisfied in Washington, notwithstanding that the political leadership, there are differences with that, but the Pakistan military has took a very bold step earlier this summer and started military operations in the tribal areas of Pakistan, and have started to take out and almost have eliminated all the sanctuaries that were that were there in the northern parts or the tribal parts of Pakistan, where the Taliban of Afghanistan would come back and would reside and plan to attack and kill American troops across the border in Afghanistan. So from a military point of view, I think there is a certain level of extreme satisfaction, but otherwise there are extreme challenges in Pakistan. It is besides the challenge of extremism and terrorism and a violent ethnic and sectarian strife in Pakistan. Pakistan has a substantial energy crisis. There is lack of electricity and natural gas. I think even major cities, major metropolitan cities, have what is called a load shedding. So they just don't have electricity. There is for, I think, 10 or 12, as much as 14 hours during summer. I think sometimes it also goes up to 16 hours just in the cities of Pakistan. There is no electricity. So you can just only imagine how bad things are in the rural part of Pakistan. Because majority of Pakistan is still rural. 80% of the population, the 180 billion population, lives in the villages. And 100 million of those are 25 or less in age, and that is the biggest challenge that confronts not just to Pakistan, but just should confront the world, because those 100 million or or so people that are 25 or less in age, which are youthful. They are unfortunately not that well educated and are extremely vulnerable to be tapped in by religious and extremist organization and terrorist network that are in Pakistan. I, for one, do believe that all these terrorist networks, whether that is Al-Qaeda, Taliban, or ISIS now, or AQIP, which is Al-Qaeda of Islamic Maghreb, all of them, they have nexuses. They all have links. They all tend to find ways to complement each other. So we have to be extremely mindful of their emergence and of their existence wherever in the world they are organized, either out of despair, frustration, or political differences. But nonetheless, there is a potential big pool of people that is there. Pakistan also had its election in 2013 that put into office a right-leaning religious party back into office, which was previously toppled by the last military takeover. So there was history that was made that Mr. Nawaz Sharif became the Prime Minister of Pakistan for the third time. That is unusual in Pakistan, that if you have been toppled by the military, previously all those political leaders that were toppled by the military, they were lucky to be alive, let alone resurrect back into office. So that somehow speaks for, and I take great pride in saying, for the non-vicious outlook of General Musharraf, for whom I take great pride in being a volunteer spokesman on various forums around the world. So that also reflects the outlook and attitude of Pakistan military. It is the military takeovers in Pakistan, unlike in other countries, especially in Africa and others, are bloodless. There is not that. Actually, Pakistan military in its history has never opened fire on its own people, or people that are protesting peacefully, or that are not carrying any weapons. Actually, one of the major challenges for Pakistan military was to get behind in this global war against terrorism and to launch a campaign against Taliban, which is a militant force, because there was a discourse and a major conversation in Pakistan that these are, whether good or bad, but these are Pakistanis. These Taliban groups are Pakistani citizens. And would it be morally right for the Pakistan military to conduct operation against its own people? But nonetheless, I think the moral argument prevailed. These are militant groups. These are deviants. They are not only challenging the integrity and stability of Pakistan. Pakistan itself has been the biggest victim of extremism and terrorism over these post-September 11th. It has lost over 60,000 people to acts of terrorism, and over $100 billion in economic losses by some estimate. So with this, I can close up my comments, because for the love of my voice, I can keep on going on and on and on. But I think this would be a more productive and an interactive session if there were some questions that came from the floor, so I could have answer and react to them, sir.
Yeah, the man that led the U.S. forces to Osama bin Laden's in jail, and I guess he's still in jail. Why is that?
So Dr. Afridi, number one, he did not lead the forces to Osama bin Laden. he was recruited by the Central Intelligence Agency because the President of the United States is a deliberate man. He wanted an ironclad, a piece of the rock, that Osama bin Laden actually was on that compound before he would send SEAL Team 6 to go and take him out. By the way, it is, I hope, is widely known that when the American troops did move into Abbottabad, they were not really 100% sure that it was Osama bin Laden because that fact could not be verified. And Dr. Afridi was retained by the CIA to actually start a immunization, a polio vaccination campaign, and under the guise of someone going into their house, do a polio vaccination and try to collect some DNA so that could be subsequently confirmed. While his intentions were good, they were certainly bought by the agency here in the United States, but that was not, he could not actually conduct that program. So he really did not contribute towards in any way in advancing the confirmation process whether Osama bin Laden was there or not. That's number one. Number two, he was offered, as I understand, that on the eve of the forces when they went in, that the United States did offer to evacuate him. But he refused. He said he just wanted to stay there. This was, he will tough it out and he will just be fine. So I think the United States did do its moral, the right thing to evacuate him, in spite of the fact that he didn't really make any material contribution. And number three, his actions, and by extension, the United States actions, caused an unintended negative consequence that today, in Pakistan, a polio vaccination is considered a conspiracy. And so the majority of Pakistani people refuse their children for getting polio vaccination, and it has become a worldwide challenge and an issue that today from Pakistan, World Health Organization has now issued an advisory that Pakistanis children, even I think adults now, cannot travel outside Pakistan if they cannot produce a certificate that they have been that have received polio vaccination. So that act of Dr. Afridi, while well intended to help the United States in exchange for payment, has created some consequences, unintended consequences that the world is now facing. And under Pakistani law, while as American, I will resonate with you and agree that, well, he should be considered a hero and still be freed. But under Pakistani law, if you get in bed with a foreign intelligence agency, that is an offense punishable by severe consequences, and that is what he is facing. Currently, he has, I think, is incarcerated for 33 years and is going through an appeal process. So you have to get in the shoes of the Pakistanis to understand that why should they let him be a free man who has not only brought shame to the country but has caused espionage. So answer to your question, sir, he's still in jail.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I hear what you say.
But he's still in jail and is going through the appeal process. I think it would be a political death warrant for any political, or for that matter, maybe some military leader may at some point, ease him out. But there is no political leader in Pakistan that will have the courage to set Dr. Afridi free.
what might either Pakistan or India do to reduce the tension between those two countries?
I think a dialogue process, both, number one, there's a myth that I want to dispel that the Pakistan military does not want peace with India because it somehow would impact the massive share of budget that it utilizes. Well, Pakistan military is based on a minimum threat deterrence. So it's quantified both in its weapons and its personnel on a 1-to-5 ratio. So to the extent that the Indian military will be, since there's a perceived existential threat, is 5 times bigger, Pakistan military will always remain the same. So the entire strength of Pakistan military is not because of the Kashmir dispute. It is just the overall orientation of the Indian military that is directed towards Pakistan, while it is there. So Pakistan military is a big proponent of peace, and the closest that a peace, permanent solution to peace had come into place during the tenure of General Musharraf, and also I would give credit to President Bush, who had informally also behind the scenes had encouraged Pakistan and India to sit on the table and find a solution. And there are 3 big disputes that are there between Pakistan and India. It is on Kashmir, it is on an island called Sir Creek, and it is on a glacier called Siachen. So these are the 3 territorial disputes. The good news is this, that during the time of General Musharraf and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, Pakistan and India have come to a resolution on Siachen and Sir Creek. The island and the glacier, the draft is in place. It now requires the political will of both sides to gather and sign that piece of document, so 2 out of 3 irritants are resolved. And the third, which is the most sticking point, which also has translated that region into becoming a nuclear flashpoint, is Kashmir. For that, the credit is to General Musharraf and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, that a thought process, I think the author of that was General Musharraf, that India wants the line of control, because there is a disputed territory, to become permanent, and Pakistan always challenges that. So General Musharraf had proposed that we should make the line of control as irrelevant. So Pakistan won't accept that it is permanent, but we will think that it is irrelevant. We will put up 6 or 8 just crossing points, so people can start to cross, trade can open, and then there could be over 15 years a gradual just demilitarization of that entire area. That particular concept by all stakeholders in that setup was also in 2007 was almost accepted, and Pakistan came closest to finding a resolution in South Asia. So answer to your question is this: I think they need to go back. The drafts are already there. The groundwork has been done. The present leadership of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who has an overwhelming majority in the parliament, though his election has been challenged by a lot of rigging, and that he stole the mandate, notwithstanding all of those things, and there are protests going on in the country nationwide for last 30 plus days. There are sit-ins, especially in the capital, of thousands of people. The Prime Minister is actually expected to be in New York. I think there's going to be a big protest there also. But nonetheless, the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the newly elected Prime Minister of India can sit on the table and take those talking points from where this was left off and advance forward. But the political realities are these, that everyone wants to start from the scratch because they do not want to give credit to their predecessors to the good work that they had already done. I think on the Indian side, while Prime Minister Modi was also on the State Department's list of, actually until he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and where he was implicated in sectarian or ethnic violences that had somehow enabled killing of thousands of Muslims or some mass dispute. Actually, his visa to the United States was revoked, and there are human rights organizations that would always challenge his coming to the United States. But since he is now the elected leader of the largest democracy in the world, so we will host him as a state guest on September 29th and 30th, and rightly so. He's representing a great nation. My wife is from India, so I dare not say anything bad or negative about India. But he is known to be anti-Muslim and anti-Pakistan, so there could be some challenges there too. But from Pakistan's side, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will probably just die first before he will pick up General Musharraf's 4-point agenda and advance that forward, because he had toppled him out of office. So there are some egos in place, but in the balance of that, there is a nuclear flashpoint that can implode at any time or any minute. I think, please.
No, thank you. A few questions. One is, with Afghanistan right by you, if Afghanistan, through the multiple parties, through this dispute in the election, resolves things and can get some stability there, what's the positive impact for Pakistan on that? And part of it is, what's Pakistan policy, you think, dealing in the future, both with Al-Qaeda as well as some of the Taliban groups that are creating some issues there?
So, number one, there is clearly hope and expectation that there is consensus and resolution, but time will tell. Those two, Mr. Abdullah used to be the former foreign minister. He represents the Northern Alliance. The good news of all of that is this, that both are liked by the United States. President-elect Ashraf Ghani is a former World Bank executive. He is, as the phrase goes, in that part of the world, very Americanized, so we like him. And post September 11th, our alliance was with the Northern Alliance, and Abdullah is a part of that. But to what two segments that they represent, which is the Pashtuns and the Northern Alliance, I don't think so. It will be, personally, I don't believe that this is a short-lived good news. There would just be issues of governance in Afghanistan. There would be disputes. They will butt heads. And I think that would, in some ways, just jeopardize the outlook of Afghanistan as it moves forward, especially when U.S. forces will draw down completely, which is towards the end of this year. And the Afghan military, which is about 350,000 or so, really would not stand up to challenge the Taliban forces there. So I think the worst is yet to come there, unfortunately. For Pakistan, Afghanistan is, I don't even know what it means. I once asked General Musharraf, what does it mean that Afghanistan is the strategic depth of Pakistan? He said, I have no idea what that means, but everybody in the United States seems to say that, everybody thinks that. So there is a phrase which is commonly used, but nonetheless, since Pakistan has the northwestern frontier province of Pakistan and Afghanistan have this ethnic ties, and there is trade, and there is all sorts of affiliations there. So it's important that there is peace and stability in Pakistan. But the Taliban threat will only grow. I think by announcing a timetable that was done in 2009 by the president when there was a surge of troops for Afghanistan, that there would be a drawdown by the end of 2014, was again that Taliban and Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, they all melted away. They were all went into hiding and in hibernation. Mullah Umar, the leader of Taliban, after 11 years, we still have not been able to find him. And the leader of Al-Qaeda, the Ayman al-Zawahiri, that is still at large. So after, I think, the combat troops would go, I think there would be challenges and issues that will be there. And Pakistan will directly get affected by that. That's why I think the Pakistan military, while the political leadership wanted to negotiate and wanted to appease, was in an appeasement mode, because not only that there are Taliban in the frontier area or in the tribal areas which are connected to Afghanistan, but Taliban in Pakistan, a big just contingent of that is settled in Punjab. So 100 million of Pakistan, the majority province, 60% of Pakistan is the province of Punjab, which is the base of its agrarian economy. That's a fertile land. But southern Punjab is dominated by what is called the Punjabi Taliban. Though about a week ago or so, there was some good news that the Punjabi Taliban have said that they are going to lay down their arms, but they made a statement, but time will tell whether that is true or not. And then there are also Taliban factions in the port city of Karachi, which is about 22 or 24 million people. So there are these links that are there, and for Pakistan it is extremely important that the center of gravity of this Taliban activity is in the tribal areas and in Afghanistan. So they are taken out and they are dismantled and defeated. So once the center of gravity is destroyed, so the rest of the links get weakened too. So I think there are challenges ahead in 2015-16 for that region, and I think within Afghanistan there will be challenges, more challenges to come.
We have time for one quick question, a student maybe? Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe two, well, maybe one and a student.
And a student. If we
I
have
promise
time.
I'll give a short
That's
answer.
quick one.
Yeah, with regard to Pakistan and India, when you say that the Indian military is oriented toward Pakistan, what does that oriented mean? Literally, the guns are pointed in that direction?
The guns of India, 80% of Indian military is along its western border, which is the eastern border of Pakistan, and they are ready in forward, positions, perceivably ready to attack. Will they ever attack? I don't think so. I think in today's time. But if you are the chief of the Pakistan military, I think you would view it as a dereliction of duty, whether you would operate under the assumption that, oh, this is just, posturing and positioning. So if you are a military leader, you have to find ways to counter that, what Pakistan does. I think General Musharraf was in a unique position, since he was also the military leader and also became the head of the government. So he could do that balancing act, and in some ways it advanced the peace process and normalizing relations with India, because he could see the Indian orientation from both hats, both as a political leader as well as a military leader. So he made certain choices, and I think it was only the will of General Musharraf that he could redirect 100,000 plus of Pakistan troops away from the eastern border and deployed it onto the western border. I think if he was only the army chief post September 11th, I think he would have, or any army chief would have given a strong resistance for such a political demand. But those were just difficult and challenging times. It was a new world order post September 11th, and clearly that is my bias. But United States will always remain in debt of General Musharraf for what he did post September 11th. Last question from a student.
With oil in mind and other natural resources, what is the role of Pakistan's natural resources in their own self-reliance?
Pakistan has natural resources, our labor market. But in minerals, Pakistan is a big producer of copper. It has natural gas, also has some petroleum commodities also, but not to a number where it can support the domestic needs. Certainly does not export these natural resources. Pakistan's natural resources are its labor pool. So majority of the blue collar workers in the Middle East, they come primarily from Pakistan and from India. But it started off as an agricultural economy, but today agriculture represents only 20% of its economy. Majority it is service-based. Information technology is something that it has made advances in, but its biggest exports are textile, and it's about 800 on a purchasing power parity. It's a GDP which is 855 billion, and the per capita income is about 4,000. So amongst third world countries, it is faring quite reasonably. But if it does have political and economic stability, it could become one of according to Goldman Sachs, has the potential to become one of the 20th top economies in the world by year 2050. But again, time will tell. But I am an entrepreneur, so I'm an internal optimist, so I'm hoping that it will achieve those targets. With that, I really appreciate all of you to be here. Thank you, Denise, for having me.
Thank you, Raza, for a wonderful presentation. We certainly appreciate the time you took to be with us today. And thank you all for coming. We hope to see you again soon. And please check for updates on programs on our website and your inbox, because we do send you emails. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr.